Hello and welcome to Novel Ponderings with Catherine Hall and Catherine Arthur. This week we're talking to author J.S.Savage about his locked room mysteries and pondering the whys and wherefores of self-publishing. Do join us. Hello. Welcome.
Hello, Catherine.
Hello, John. Hello, Catherine.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Cheers, everyone.
You too.
So, John, tell us a bit about yourself.
And that was the dreaded question, that.
The dreaded question, yeah. The job interview, the dreaded question. Let's just get it down to the qualifications now. So I'm obviously a writer, hence the podcast. I write sort of old-fashioned murder mysteries, but I've got two sort of series on the go. So one is set in 1926, which will progress through as time goes on. So it's more olden, like I don't want to say olden times, but it's not present day. Whereas the other one is a modern series. So in the old one is Inspector Graves.
Is that the Mystery of Treefall Manor?
Yes, that's Mystery of Treefall Manor, and then the second one, the sequel, well, not sequel to that, but the second one in that series is The Riddle of the Ravens.
Right, yes, because I worked on that for you. Absolutely brilliant. Loved that book.
Thanks.
Really.
Yeah, I was really pleased with them both.
I
think I wanted to write something set in that time period because it's the proper sort of fair play golden age of mystery time where you can't use, there's no mobile phones, there's no radio, all that sort of stuff, where you can just write proper clued mystery where it's fair for the reader. But writing in the modern day, you can add in little elements that sort of make the reader think to themselves about the time period then, but also reflecting now. Because it's just after the First World War, and no one then would have thought that there'd be another one. So you can put that in the book. You can have a character say, the war is over, we've got peace now, there'll never be a war again. And then the reader reflects and thinks, well, people think that now, but it's not true, is it? Because you've got what's going on in the world, and at the minute, India, Pakistan, Ukraine, Russia, China, and with Taiwan, war is just around the corner. But people would have thought then, there's no more war, and people think that now. So you can draw them parallels with the modern world, even though it's set in 1926.
Did you have to do a lot of research for it to find out how they lived, or were you reading other books to see how they were living there?
Not too much. For Treefall Manor, not too much, because Treefall Manor is a fictional place. It's set in a very fictional place. It's set in a fictional county. It's just basically the classic manor house where there's a murder happens. It happens to be an impossible murder, and there's all the suspects are gathered in one place. With The Riddle of the Ravens, yes, absolutely. I had to do a lot of research for that because it's set at the Tower of London.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history buffs that will pull me up on things that aren't right.
Yeah. When I was working on it, I learned a lot in your book.
Yeah. When you're writing, there's things that you don't even think about. You just sort of assume. Like in the first chapter of the book, I've got it where. So basically, in the book, there's 3 ravens die in mysterious circumstances at the Tower of London, and because the ravens belong to the king, they call in Scotland Yard, more of to launch a serious investigation, but they feel like they have to because they belong to the king. And then the detectives go to the Tower of London, and while they're there, a beefeater gets murdered. But even writing from the detectives leaving Scotland Yard to go to the Tower of London, obviously I had to look up in 1926, how would you get there? You get the tube. But Tower Hill tube station didn't exist. So they would go to Monument and then they'd walk from Monument Station. But I just assumed for some reason that the tube train would be steam back in them days. And my wife said, well, I'm pretty sure there was electric then. And then I'd written the entire novel and went through it and had to do the research, and she was right. Like on that specific line, the trains were electric from like 1911, but on the other lines were steam. So it's things like that where.
Yeah.
Did you see that before you published, or you didn't have to
I did
rewrite
see
it?
it
You
before I
managed to get
published.
that
No,
before.
I did. Well, I didn't see it. My wife saw it before I published. Yes.
Good.
See, John, you've learned a valuable lesson there, because wives are always right.
Well, she would say so.
I did read Treefall Manor before I worked on, because I worked on Sun, Sea and Murder first for you, didn't
You worked
I?
on Sun, Sea and Murder, and then you worked on The Riddle of the
Yeah.
Ravens after that.
And that was really good, because you've written it in from 4 different characters, didn't you?
Yeah, so Sun, Sea and Murder.
I remember now, it was a while ago. But it was good.
Yeah, probably about a year and a half. Yeah. So Sun, Sea and Murder. So Treefall Manor, like I said, was 1926 setting. When I finished that, I already had the idea for The Riddle of the Ravens, but I wanted to write something just a little bit different because I wasn't set on the self-publishing aspect. I was querying agents and things like that. I thought, well, let's write something different than Treefall Manor. Let's write something modern day with 4 points of view, and see if we can make it work. Because I had read, if you write a book from a single point of view, it's writing any book's hard. Writing from 2 points of view, it's tricky. 3, but to get 4 right, you've got to really nail it.
Do you feel when you were writing it that it was difficult, or did it all just flow?
It flowed. Yeah, but I think the reason for that is because the characters are also different.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the reader to struggle differentiating between the characters. And some of the feedback I've had is said that when you get towards the end of the book, you don't even look to see at the chapter heading who the narrator is, because you just know from the writing style, because they're different. Good. So one of the narrators is called Sally, and she wanted to be a writer. So her writing is, as you'd expect, from sort of more of a literary novel. One of the characters is Terry, and he provides the humor in the book. So his voice is very different from Sally's. Sanjay, again, very different voice. He's a journalist, and he's having relationship problems. And then the last one is Marley. Marley's there with her mother, but she comes from a background where she's from South London, from a Jamaican background, and she's got 3 brothers. But because she's the only girl, the emphasis is put on her in terms of the family role. A bit like my family in a way. Where I come from, the women hold the families together. I wanted her to suffer in the sense that it was almost the family was a burden on her because it was expected of her, where she had career aspirations and she had this, but her mum's in a wheelchair because she's got health difficulties. Her dad's dead. Dad actually died at the hotel the year before, which is part of the story. But I wanted it to be that, this is a narrator who has dreams, expectations, hopes, all this, but is weighed down by the familial responsibility that is expected of her, not what she wants to provide. Although she does want to provide for her mom, she does want to help, but she's overburdened by it. Whereas the brothers get off scot-free. So I had 4 different narrators there, each very sort of individual, that I thought, okay, I can make a good novel out of this.
Did you have those characters in mind when you started, or did they evolve as you went?
When I decided to write the book, I thought, what type of characters would I want? And they all just sort of came quite naturally to me. I didn't really develop. It was quite good. I didn't really have to change anything. They were just in my mind, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got I remember those 4 points of view. They were very individual, and you did do really well. You got the voice spot on, so we knew who was narrating that particular chapter.
To get it rolling, because I remember my friend, he read the book before it was published, and he said to me, I don't know how you've written the book. I don't know how you've written this, because the way he looked at it must have been so complicated. But I just wanted to get each narrative roll into the next one. Yes. So when Sanjay stopped talking, there would be some incident that then Marley would then pick up on.
Yeah.
And then it would just roll from there. And it started off quite easy because it was set at a Spanish holiday resort. It all starts off with them in the airport individually going on holiday. Yeah. And then there was an incident where they're picking up the baggage, where there's a little bit of mystery. There's someone is picking up a bag, and one of the narrators sees them. And then has like shock on their face, like, oh, what's going on here? Why are they here? And then it rolls into them all arriving at the hotel. There's a big dinner on the first night, and then there's threats made, and then the dead body turns up. And it turns out that some of the characters know each other from previous. There's links between them.
Did you plot that book, or are you
a
pantser?
I pretty much plotted up until the first murder, which is probably only 20,000 words. And then I let it sort of roll from there. The second murder I had in mind because I wanted that character to die, because there's an element to the book. I don't want to give too much away, but I wanted to do something unique. And basically the link between the two murders, I thought at the time, and still do think, it might be unique in the genre. The link between the two. I wanted to do something that was quite clever.
Yeah.
Bit like all my books, really. When I wrote Treefall Manor. So when I wrote Treefall Manor, it's a locked room mystery. And when I had it in my head and I was sitting in the bath thinking about how would this work, how are you going to kill someone in a locked room and all this, I came up with it. And it wasn't until I'd written it, it had been edited, and went to publish it, I thought, oh, what if it's not an original idea? It had never even crossed my mind. What if the locked room has been done before, and then people think I'm copying someone else? And I was struck by horror at this thought of, whoa, what if someone thinks I'm plagiarizing a different book? And then with The Riddle of the Ravens, the trick in that, I thought someone must have thought of this before. But I don't think they have, because all the reviews that have come back, it's quite a simple trick I pull off, but I don't think it's been done before.
I think, there's millions and millions of books out there, so you're never ever going to write something that's completely original, are you? But
that's the thing. Like
you did pull it off.
Most people that know the genre would know the solution to the murder of Roger Ackroyd, for example.
Yeah.
But that solution had been done 4 times before that book was written. But Agatha Christie didn't know that, But because she made it so famous because of the way she executed it, that everyone remembers that and don't know about the other solutions before that, the other books.
Yeah.
So you're right. You never know. Like, there will probably be books written that I don't know of.
But that's your book, isn't it? And you're going to put your own take on it and your own twist to it, etc. So I don't think it matters really if there is another one out there that's a similar story. I read a lot of books myself, and very with very similar stories and similar endings, and and you can get to a point where you think, oh God, not again. I feel like I've just read this one, but it's not. It's an individual author, and it's their work, and
that's true. Yeah,
you've got to go along with it.
You mentioned reviews, John. How do you get your reviews? I mean, do you give out free copies and ask for reviews in response, or are you getting them just coming from your readers, from people who buy the book or download it?
So, a bit of both. With Treefall Manor, I did send out a couple of copies to reviewers, and that was good. There's a book website called Book Sirens, which are used, which is quite good, because you put it out there, and then people who are readers and bloggers, they go on the website and they can pick your book based on the sound of it. So there's no sort of interaction between you and them. You're not asking them to read the book. They read it if they want to. And it doesn't cost that much, because you only get charged if they download the book. So I would recommend that. It's a bit like NetGalley, only a lot cheaper for readers. And also, I follow a few online bloggers, and there's one called In Search of the Classic Mystery Novel, and the guy who runs that, the blog was all the way back like nearly 15 years, and he picks a book of the month, and his best books that he's read that month and things. Well, there was a very famous author called Ronald Knox, and he basically wrote his 10 commandments of what a mystery novel should comprise of.
Right.
Like no secret passages, no twins, that type of thing. And then the man who runs In Search of the Galaxy's mystery novel, half in jest, wrote his own 10 rules, what he likes to see to make a good mystery novel. And I read that, and my book, The Mystery of Treefall Manor, ticked every box.
Yeah.
I just emailed him, and so he downloaded it, he got a copy, and then he loved it. And it was his joint book of the month alongside Robert Thorogood, who made Death in Paradise. So he had a book come out called The Queen of Poisons, and it was joint book of the month along with his. So that gave me a lot of confidence. Someone who's read 10,000 mystery novels, really like mine. And then Sunset Murder, it got book of the month in the same blog as well. Yeah, it's really good having that sort of support, because it I wouldn't say push your ego, but it just gives you the confidence.
Apart from reviews, how do you market your books? Do you advertise anywhere?
No, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, but it doesn't really come naturally to me, especially on Twitter now, because no one these days, it changes every few months, but no one sees what you see you on Twitter. It's just a black hole. Instagram's a bit better, but again, Instagram's just all photos, isn't it? So I'm actually in the process of making a website where I'll put book reviews that I read on. Obviously, links to my books, a bit of a blog, what I'm going to be writing, what I'm writing. And then I've got short stories that I'm half tempted to put on there because they're quite good, but they're not in the same genre. So I'm kind of thinking, would it be a waste of time putting on there more literary short stories? But I might stick them on there, and people can read them for free if they want to.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's a good idea to put the short stories on for free, because it gives people a taste of your writing, and they haven't got to, buy anything. And if they enjoy your writing, then maybe they'll go on and download or buy something.
I think you've changed the cover, haven't you, on Treefall?
I have recently, yeah. So that's the new one.
Yeah.
Bit glary there.
What made you change the cover?
I wanted so I got my friend to do the cover because he's a graphic designer. But then I used someone different because he's so busy and he takes forever. And he's got 2 kids now. I got someone different to do the Riddle of the Ravens. And I really liked the Riddle of the Ravens cover, but they didn't look the same, and they're part of the same series. So I wanted that continuity.
Right.
So I thought if we get the same person, you know what I mean? I thought if we get the same person, then even if it's just like the spines, they look similar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Similar, I thought it'd just be better, especially when I've written 5 and they're on Amazon as part of a series.
Totally agree. You need to create your brand, really. So you want people to look at a book and say, oh, that's a J.S.Savage.
The same goes with, like I said, social media. I think that most writers tend to be introverts or introverted in some ways. You're sitting in front of a laptop on your own, tapping away.
I mean, we're all sitting here today with a gin and tonic, aren't we, on our own? I mean, you can't get more introverted than that.
The marketing, you've got to go, look at me, I'm here and I'm wonderful and my writing is fantastic. Buy it.
It's so uncomfortable to do because it's not you. That's it. It's not you as a person. It's not something that you naturally do.
I think
on the other hand, if you
really have to adapt to it though, because there's a massive amount of competition out there, and I've not been brought up to brag or to boast about things.
No,
but if I didn't advertise my business, I wouldn't get any work. I've got 6 published books out there as well, and I don't market them anymore. I don't promote them anymore. But you have to get yourself out there anyway, even if you do feel uncomfortable about doing it, because it might make some sales. It might
it might make the difference. Yeah. With Amazon gets a lot of stick, but Amazon's great. Without Amazon, people like me can have this.
Yeah, no, I think
brilliant.
Great too. Yeah.
And I think the quality is really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about that before, weren't we? The quality of Amazon publishing is actually quite good.
It's really good.
It's really good, and it's getting better and better. Because so basically, if anyone's watching this or listening to this and they think about self-publishing, so with these, I went for the glossy cover, as you can see.
Yeah.
I did try out the matte cover, but it folds quite badly. So I'd actually get the design right so that it works better with the glossy cover. Because if you set it down like that, it doesn't fold up. Whereas with the mat, it goes up like that.
That's interesting.
And you've got, is that white paper?
Yeah, it's white paper, yeah.
Yeah.
One for white.
Yeah.
But with the royalties, it's quite fun watching, the royalties. Because it's good knowing that like I'm just some random bloke who just had to write books, and I've sold books in every continent in the world except for Antarctica. I've got like people in Brazil writing blogs about my books, and it's like, really, it's mad. Like Americans love books set in 1926. In fact, if anyone's listening to this and you want readers, Americans love books set in 1926. Because 80% of my book sales go to America.
Well, it's a big market.
15% UK, the rest is like Germany, Australia, stuff like that. But if you want to gauge your sales, obviously you sell books, but you don't know when that person's going to actually read the book, if ever. But with Kindle Unlimited, you stick it on Kindle Unlimited, and you can see every day people reading your book, and it's great.
What's next for you? What's your next book?
It's a Penny Hailstone. So Penny Hailstone's my protagonist in Sunset Murder. She's the amateur detective in Sunset Murder.
Yeah.
And the next one that's going to feature her is the reason why I've got to write it now is because her mother is one of the main characters in it, but her mother needs to be about 100, and a lot of it's sort of steeped in the past and during the Second World War and things like that. But
so does it go backwards and forwards in time, or
no, it's all written in modern day. So basically it'll be 4 protagonists, 4 points of view.
Have you written it from third person?
No, so they'll all be written in the first person. But you got to get the basics right. I saw a guy on Twitter, because the way the algorithm works, it just throws up the odd random tweet, doesn't it? And there was a guy on Twitter, and he was complaining. He put up a picture of it was his Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing page, like a screenshot. And it was for the month of April. He had no sales. He had not a single page read. Right, and he basically said, "What am I doing wrong?" And I looked at the comments, and people made it quite obvious. Like, well, you haven't actually put a link on your page of what book to your book on Amazon. You haven't even specified what genre you write in. So all you've basically got is your name, and his name on the page didn't even match his author's name.
Oh, right.
So there's absolutely no way for anyone to find him. And,
no link.
And he's thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, come on.
Yeah. It's you've got to. There's a knack, isn't there? There's a knack to it.
I hate the marketing side of it. I could buy 100 marketing books, read them cover to cover, and still wouldn't have a clue about how to market myself.
It's hard. It is hard, and I think a lot of people find the same problem. They don't know where to start really with it. I think that's what puts a lot of people off the self-publishing, and they think that traditional is going to do it all for them, and then they find actually it doesn't. They don't.
It really doesn't. Not anymore. And then the other thing is, when you do self-publish and you do it on KDP, it's always a really good idea to go in to KDP to your account every month, every 2 months maybe, and just refresh the keywords and refresh the categories, because that will, I think it puts the book into a different rank or something like that. Really lovely to talk to you today, John.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, really great. Thank you very much.